Braves takes the lead for the first time tonight.
Hey, everybody. I think the Brewers just scored again. Welcome to X's and Bros on a Wednesday morning. We are brought to you by Mitch Lyons Wealth, and we've got a very, very busy show here for you today. Rene Rivera, the Whitecaps manager, will join us at 7:35. His team suffering a setback last night. Bryce Rayner in the lineup last night, but we'll talk with him and get an idea of what it takes to get guys at the high A level ready for Double A and eventually the big leagues. So he'll give us a chat at 7:35. The Lions, we are a little bit more than 24 hours away from the Lions' next acquisition. Their first round pick will take place tomorrow night in Pittsburgh at number 17 as of right now. Colton Pouncey will let us know just how likely it might be for the Lions to either trade down, trade up, or stand pat. All that coming up here on X's and Bros with you. And the Meyer hotline is 866-838-4843. The text line is Sports Radio 21,000. We always look forward to your feedback. Brewers beat the hell out of the Tigers 12-4. Most runs allowed by Detroit this season. Carter Montero allowed 3 runs on 5 2/3 innings. And Manuel De Jesus lit the fire. He allowed 7 runs on 7 hits while collecting just 4 outs. Game 2 tonight. Casey Mize throws against Chad Patrick. Ugly. Simply ugly. Every team is going to have these. Some more than others. Ask the New York Mets, who've lost 12 in a row. God, they're bad. It's horrendous what that team is going through. Not that it should matter much, but every time I think, we don't have an elite team per se. Tigers are 500. I still think they're the best team in the division. I still think they'll win the division. Of course, I said that last year, and I said it the year before, and I was wrong. But anyway, every time I think we've got some issues, I look around Major League Baseball. I'm sure you do the same thing. And you recognize who's lighting it all on fire. Which team out there is just so good that you can never see your team getting past. If I asked you, based on last year, based on money, based on a lot of different things, which team has the fewest wins in all of baseball? Who would you say?
It's not the Mets right now?
I would have thought it would have been Colorado.
Oh, yeah. If you said who to guess, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right.
Or the
Andy
White
McDonald
Sox.
with us. Andy McDonald with us as always. It's actually, you're right. It's the Mets. 7 wins. That's all they have.
It's crazy.
And I kind of laugh at that. I giggle a little bit. And then I recognize the Tigers only have 5 more wins. It's not a lot.
No.
It's a good week, but it's not a lot. There's nobody running and hiding. The Yankees lead the East at 14-9. Cleveland's in front in this division, in the AL Central, at 14-11. The Athletics lead the West by a half game at 13-11. The Braves have a pretty damn good record, along with the Reds. Both are 16-8. They lead their respective divisions. I mean, Detroit swept the Marlins, and the Marlins are in second place in the NL East.
Yeah,
but they're 2 games under 500.
I mean, Seattle's 5 games under right now. You got, and Houston is, they're way under too. That's a couple of teams that are
7 games under 500. Yep.
Those are names you usually see. And then you got the Phillies and Mets are both at the bottom of that division right now. Those are both names you would have expected to see towards the top. So, I mean, yeah, some of it probably has to do with being early, I think.
I think it's way too early. And I agree with you that teams have so much room to grow.
I think it's interesting with the Phillies, though. I feel like a lot of people were kind of calling their shot that maybe this was like the end of their time with some of these players. Like maybe these players were running to the end of their, time together there because of the way that last year ended, and they just haven't been able to get it down in the playoffs. They're off to a pretty bad start.
I've said this ad nauseum, all right? And I hate to repeat it, but sometimes when it's appropriate, you feel like you got to do that. Just because you spend money does not mean you're going to be successful. According to Sport Track, the active payrolls, Philadelphia and the Mets are number 1 and 2.
That's a
Active
crazy stat
payrolls.
right now.
It's $209 million for the Phils, $204 million for the Mets. Total payroll is a little different story, okay? But active payroll. Total payroll, the Mets are number 1, Dodgers 2, Phillies are number 5. What we were told is if you spend the money, championships will come. Ask the Mets if that's true. Ask the Yankees if that's true. Ask Toronto if that's true. Ask Philadelphia if that's true. Ask Atlanta if that's true. Recently. But this year, Atlanta's had a good start. Yankees have had a good start. Dodgers have had a good start. Mets haven't. Phillies haven't. Houston hasn't. Cubs a winner last night over the Mets. They're off to a decent start. It's going to change. I'm not going to tell you that this is the way it's going to be for the entire season. Everybody wanted the Tigers to spend more money. They did spend more money. They're at $206 million. They're number 10 in total payroll in all of baseball, not the American League. 10 in all of baseball. They're playing 500 ball. Now, again, it's not going to stay this way. I don't think Detroit is going to finish 81-81. All I'm saying is it's how you spend the money, not how much you spend in terms of your payroll, I believe. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander named Clutch Player of the Year. Does that surprise you? No. Cade Cunningham finished 4th with 1 place vote. That surprises me a little bit. You and I have seen this guy take over games. You and I have seen this guy carry at times this team seemingly on a regular basis. Do you think he should only receive 1 vote?
Probably more than 1, but it just kind of seems like time and time again this team gets overlooked for things like this.
Here's how it finished. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander 1, Jamal Murray 2. Again, this is clutch. This is not MVP. This is not the best player on your team. Best player on the Denver Nuggets is who? Nikola Jokic, and it's not even close. Jamal Murray is 2nd. He finishes 2nd in this category. Didn't receive 1 first-place vote. Anthony Edwards finished 3rd. He didn't receive a first-place vote. But Cade Cunningham finished 4th. He received 1 first-place vote. Then it was Jalen Brunson, then Nikola Jokic, then Tyrese Maxey, who helped the Sixers win last night. He and rookie VJ Edgecombe combined for 59, and they beat the Celtics in Boston 111-97. I know what you're going to think. If you've been listening to this show, you know what happens? Where is the playoff experience? Right? These things, this is why it's hard for me to freak out after 1 game. You and I can be pissed. You and I can have certain emotions. To consider it over and to label this team a team unable to win in the playoffs because they haven't won a playoff series in the past is ridiculous. Boston, you've got champions on that team, and they just lost to Philly at home. And a 20-year-old rookie did something nobody's done. We got to take a quick time out. Busy morning. Glad you're with us. We invite you into the show. You can do it via YouTube, X, and Facebook since we stream live, or text us, Sports Radio 21,000.
How would you like to watch the Pistons in the playoffs on the biggest TV in Michigan? Well, you can get a huge deal and also get the biggest TV at your local ABC Warehouse store. You can shop online right now at abcwarehouse.com. They have locations all across Michigan. So if you want to watch the Pistons in the playoffs on the biggest TV in your neighborhood, go to your local ABC Warehouse store or shop online at abcwarehouse.com.
Saturday night, May 23rd.
Carry on my wayward son.
Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort welcomes multi-platinum legends, Kansas. Tickets start at $60 and are on sale now at the box office or etix.com. Don't miss the best of classic rock. Kansas returns to Soaring Eagle Saturday, May 23rd. SoaringEagleCasino.com.
If you're the largest selling comedy recording artist in history,
You might be a redneck.
Jeff Foxworthy, Friday, June 12th, inside the Soaring Eagle Entertainment Hall.
Our parents can't text and our children can't write.
Tickets start at $60 and are on sale now at the box office and online at etix.com. Laugh it up at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort, Friday, June 12th with Jeff Foxworthy.
My father-in-law got his chest hair caught in his zipper.
SoaringEagleCasino.com.
Where are you watching the Tigers this year? Superfly Hayes here for Detroit Sportsnet. Sign up like the Huge Show did with the Detroit Sportsnet Tigers Wings package. Subscription info at tigers.com and MLB.com.
Okay, back with you 18 after the hour here on X's and Bros throughout the state of Michigan. Glad you're with us. We mentioned that the Sixers beat the Celtics last night. Well, Blazers hold off the Spurs. They held them without a field goal. Portland held San Antonio without a field goal for the final 3.5 minutes. The Spurs were up 14 in the fourth, and the Blazers were able to beat them. Victor Wembanyama was lost to a concussion in the second quarter. But here's the problem. When people start using the excuse, well, they didn't have Victor Wembanyama. Hold on. They built a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter without him. And then they crumbled. So anytime I give you these updates, I like to make sure I'm thinking of Andy and his buddies. And they sit there and go, man, see the Spurs without Victor Wembanyama, it's really, it's a totally different ballgame. Then how did they build such a big lead without him? Lakers hold serve over the Rockets 101-94. LA leads the game 2-0. LeBron James had 28. He had more than that. The 41-year-old had 28, 8, and 7. Really impressive. And they're doing that without Luka Doncic. Okay? And at times Austin Reeves. NHL, Tampa trims Montreal 3-2 in overtime. J.J. Moser's first career playoff goal was the game winner. That series is tied at 1-1. Boston doubled a Buffalo 4-2 to even their series at 1 apiece. Victor Arvidsson had a pair of goals for the Bees. And you know what they're saying in Buffalo right now. We were down big in game 1 and had to fight our way back to win it. We were down big in game 2. We can't keep getting in a hole like that. Utah gets by Vegas 3-2. Logan Cooley has the game winner. Each team has a win in the series. And Colorado edges the Kings 2-1 for a second straight game. The Avs lead 2-0. Here's our Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question of the day. Would you rather see the Lions trade up, trade down, or stand pat? Vote as often as you want at XB Mornings. We give you the results in the 8 o'clock hour tomorrow. And just a reminder, we got ticket giveaways to Pistons games. Pistons playoff games, home games. Our buddy Bill Simonson with the Huge Show, live all week till Thursday at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. The watch party for game 2 is tonight at Soaring Eagle. He's going to be there. All right. Thursday, tomorrow, you got a watch party for the NFL draft and Detroit Lions home opener ticket giveaway. All you got to do is make sure you're at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Bill Simonson basically lives there. So feel free to do just that. It'll be Jake Rogers pitched last night. Anytime you have a position player pitching in your game, you got issues. It's a serious problem. All right. Jake Rogers made his 6th pitching appearance of his career and registered his first strikeout on a nasty knuckle curve. It was incredible. He's the first major league. He had the first major league strikeout. Joey Ortiz, the victim. Dylan Dingler saved the baseball. So kind of a cool situation. Make the most of it, right? Yeah, down 12-1.
At that point
he
in the
comes
game.
in. Yeah, at that point in the game. And the crowd understood it too. Now, if Jake Rogers is making 8 appearances in the season, that's a huge problem. I've always hated, I've hated the player position pitching situation. I struggle with why, to be honest with you. I'm just being transparent here. What difference does it make, right? I mean, could he do any worse than what DeJesus did? Hell no. DeJesus was horrible, all right? Tigers pitching was horrible in general. A.J. Hinch, tired of seeing them extend and make mistakes and put more pressure on themselves. Think about this for a minute. The Brewers collected 16 hits. How many extra base hits would you think in a 12-run, 16-hit attack a team might have? You'd think quite a few, right? You'd think they left the yard. 12 runs, a lot of runs, man.
It is, for sure.
Okay. So how many would you think they would have in something like that.
If I had to guess, you'd think at least like 3 home runs, 12 runs normally. I'd feel like maybe 2, but yeah, I'd think it probably 3.
They had 3 extra base hits. They had a double and a couple of triples.
Yeah, man, they run the bases. It's
yeah, they do.
They put
run
pressure
the
on. There was a
bases.
couple of times last night the Tigers just couldn't avoid those issues. Especially, I think there was a big moment there where they had a runner trapped in between second and third, and Manuel Jesus made the bad throw, and that kind of kept that inning alive. And they scored a couple more runs. I believe it was when the game was still 3-1. So just little things like that sometimes.
How are you able to do that while you're at the Whitecaps game, for crying out loud?
Always
amazing.
I usually listen in one ear to that, and then I shoot the game for Jack with the camera. So
Nice.
it's we make it work.
Think about this. That's dedication. Brewers average about 3 runs a game. All right, 299, 3 runs a game, and they pumped in 12 last night. Doesn't mean it's going to be that way all the time. I'm just saying that's a lot of runs, and yet it's just 3 extra base hits.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And you're right. They take the extra base. They do the little things that sometimes make a difference. I'm not going to claim to know how good Milwaukee's going to be eventually. All right. I mean, it's a team that usually, believe it or not, it did not lead the National League in wins last year, I believe.
No,
won.
They're good.
They won the division.
And they're missing Jackson Churio and Christian Yelich right now.
That's right. Yeah. They're 13-9. They're having a nice season. But 12 runs is, the previous high for Detroit allowed was 8. So way too many runs, obviously. But the bounce back is hopefully tonight. Ian Rappaport said something interesting about the Lions yesterday that I think is worth discussing. And we will do that with you at 6:35 because it has to do with the Mitch Lyons wealth poll question. And Brad Holmes is a busy dude. He's a really busy guy on draft day. Not sure people truly understand how busy. I'll give you the numbers here in a moment, and it might blow your mind. You know that he's a guy willing to make trades, which can be, a really good thing. And depending on which trade it is and whether you like it, like last year, I think there were a lot of people pissed off that he traded a couple of thirds for a chance to get Isaac Tesla, his favorite receiver in the draft, who then goes out and just doesn't play hardly nearly as many snaps as he should have. For a guy, you give up that much capital, it was ridiculous, and we talked about it all last year. And he didn't give up 3 thirds like everybody says. He moved from 1/3 to the next. So you're trading within the round and then 2 additionals. And one of those additionals is this year. He doesn't have a 3rd round pick this year. But he sees value in a certain amount of players. You and I can disagree with that. You and I can sit there and argue that the picks are more important. And as I mentioned yesterday on NFL radio, they said 1st round picks. This is just the 1st round. 45% become impact players, which I would have thought much more than that, but it's 45%. So when you think about it that way, and they've identified certain players, and are there greater value in later rounds? Absolutely. I mean, you're going to find that in every draft. All right. Look at how valuable certain players are. Okay. Even free agents, Wes Welker. Okay. How good of a certain player it may be. But every team, not that they all go by the same system, but they do rank every single player, and every team has round value on players. I've heard from people that the Lions have identified a certain number of 1st round values. Because of that, they may be making a move within the 1st round. We'll talk about that on the other side. We're brought to you this hour by Mitch Lyons Wealth. We're glad you're with us on a Wednesday. Colton Pouncey joins us at 8:35. He from The Athletic to talk a lot more about the Lions and where they could be headed. So stay with us here on X's and Bros throughout the state of Michigan.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Van Andel Institute Purple Community is a grassroots fundraising network powered by the dedicated volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve human health now and in the future. When you raise funds through the Van Andel Institute Purple Community, 100% of the proceeds go directly to the Institute's research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's, as well as VAI's science education programs. Learn how you can get involved at purplecommunity.org. Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive, boys and girls, high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com. What's up, Michigan? You're listening to my good friend Shep. The Huge Show is coming up later today at 3, right here on the Michigan Sports Network.
Okay, 35 after the hour on a busy Wednesday. Rene Rivera, the manager of the Michigan Whitecaps, will join us at the bottom of the 7 o'clock hour. Colton Pouncey of the Athletic joins us at the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour. Excited for that for sure. I think you will be too, and I think you'll always enjoy those conversations. I did see an ESPN, and we're getting down to the nitty gritty. I know. I mean, how many? The reason I don't look at mock drafts as soon as the football season is over is because of how drastically they change. Think of everything that happens in sports, and as soon as something is over, a champion is crowned. College basketball. Michigan wins the championship. The next day, what do you get? Within the next couple of days. Next year's way too early preseason top 25. Don't even know who's on the team yet. Sometimes don't even know who's coaching the team yet because changes are made. And what happens? See? People want to chime in and recognize or be recognized for having certain teams in certain spots. And the same thing, I think, with the NFL draft. Mock drafts come out. Nobody has gone through a combine. Nobody has gone through any interviews. Teams haven't even decided on free agents yet, and everybody thinks that they know who a team is going to take. These are a little bit more understandable at this time of the year because most of the intel is gathered and some of it is leaked and some of it is shared with members of the media. You see the interviews with players on various places and so on and so forth. ESPN and Mel Kiper have come together, as they always do, or what they call NFL Nation. He's part of it. And they've come out with the final draft. If there's the lock is Fernando Mendoza, number 1 overall. I don't think I've seen a mock draft with anybody other than Fernando Mendoza, number 1 overall. It gets interesting at number 2 with the Jets because some people feel like it could be Arvell Reese for Ohio State. Others feel like it could be David Bailey. It depends on how you look at him. Unfortunately for you, I have listened to podcast after podcast after podcast on this, listening to various insiders, various scouts, various general managers of the past, and heard their philosophy on certain players. Arvell Reese seems to be a hell of a futuristic pick, a guy who's going to be a really good player moving forward. But David Bailey's the best pure pass rusher right now in the draft. I would take David Bailey personally, but who cares? ESPN has the Jets taking David Bailey, Arizona taking Arvell Reese, which is kind of interesting. I suppose can't necessarily go wrong. Tennessee at 4, they have the Titans taking Sonny Styles, which he's one of my favorite players in the draft. If I had to pick favorite players, Sonny Styles is one of those top 5 guys for me. I think when you look at certain individuals, Jeremiah Love is a complete back. He's the only complete back in this draft, the only one worthy of a first round. He's one of those guys. Styles is one of those guys. Bailey is one of those guys. Ayonye is one of those guys. For me, just saying for me, as incredible players, as top 5 picks. And quite honestly, I think Carnell Tate is probably one too. Anyway, they've got the Giants taking Jeremiah Love. And the Giants, as we know, have a couple of picks. And I would guess if Sonny Styles were there, if it were the other way around and Tennessee took, if Tennessee decided to go with Jeremiah Love, then the Giants would gladly grab Sonny Styles. It's the kind of guy that John Harbaugh loves to coach. Cleveland, they've got Francis Mauigoa. He's the offensive tackle for Miami. Many think is the best offensive lineman in the draft. I guess for me, he played tackle all in college, and now many people feel like he's going to be moved inside to a guard position. At 7, they have Washington taking Mansour Delane. He's the cornerback from LSU and considered the smoothest quarterback out there. At 8, they have the Saints taking Carnell Tate, which to me is kind of an interesting pick. But they invested in Tyler Shuck a year ago, and they want to give him weapons. 9 is where it gets super interesting because Kansas City, probably not the greatest spot that you could be in. They could easily move down, but they do need somebody opposite of George Karlaftis, and maybe Reuben Bain is that guy, so they've got them taking Reuben Bain. Then the Jets are back on at 10, and they got them taking Caleb Downs, which would disappoint the Dallas Cowboys because I think they would love to have a guy like Caleb Downs. They would love to fix their secondary. They have to. They've got all kinds of problems in the secondary. Mansour Delane would be great, Caleb Downs, but if he doesn't fall that far, they've got the Cowboys at 12. I'll tell you who they got. Miami, they have them taking Spencer Fano. So there goes the second offensive lineman in the top 11 picks. And this is perhaps why some feel like the Lions will get nervous. We'll get to that in a minute because Ian Rappaport of NFL Network had something interesting to say yesterday that I want you to hear. Dallas at 12, Jordan Tyson. What? They got George Pickens that they signed to a long-term deal. They got CeeDee Lamb. You want another wide receiver? If I were Dallas, a fan of Dallas, I would be livid there. Although it is best player available. 13, the Rams, Mekhi Lemon, the wide receiver out of USC, and many people feel like is Amon-Ra St. Brown reincarnated. Baltimore, Vavega Ayonye. He's the guard out of Penn State, who I think is fantastic and perfect. You just put him in there and hadn't given up a sack in the last 2 seasons, an absolute mauler, and I think a sure thing. It's a safe pick for Baltimore. Tampa at 15, Akeem Messidor. So you've got 3 offensive linemen gone. You've got 4 edge rushers gone. And then it's the Jets. They have them taking Amari Cooper Jr., wide receiver at Indiana. That leaves Detroit in a really good spot if the draft were to fall this way. But here's the caveat. Detroit's not the only team eyeing offensive linemen. Here's Ian Rappaport, NFL.com, NFL Network, on what he could possibly see make the Lions nervous. Go ahead, Andy, play it.
Around 15 and 16. Both those picks are before 17, which is where the Detroit Lions pick, and I think it's pretty clear. The Lions have a need, maybe a significant need, thanks, Mike, for a offensive tackle. And a lot of teams know this. So the Lions have said, and we may not take a tackle, but I think it's fair to say teams believe they will. And you have several teams right behind the Lions. You have teams like the Panthers, Philadelphia Eagles, San Francisco 49ers, and several others who have done a lot of work on the top tackles. Do they try to jump in front of the Lions to get one of the top tackles, one of the last few top tackles available? I know the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, for instance, at 15 are open to moving back. The Jets are always open to moving from Darren Muji on down. That certainly seems to be a place where someone, Tom, could come up and take a tackle.
That's interesting. That's Ian Rappaport. What's interesting about that is he didn't mention the Bears, and the Bears might be a team that want to move up. Can you imagine the Bears and Ben Johnson putting the screws to the Lions by trading up ahead of them and taking the guy that the Lions would want? Think about it for a minute.
Another add to that headline, that's for sure.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's another layer in what has become at times a bit of a soap opera. But anyway, I mean, does anybody know Dan Campbell as well as Ben Johnson? Ben Johnson probably knows exactly what that team needs. You and I think we do. He has a pretty good idea of their mindset. He's been in the room. They've been drafting offensive players for him. If it fell this way at 17, and what they do is when they say NFL Nation, they have taken all the writers for ESPN.com within the NFL markets and given them the pick and seen how it goes, and they go through this live draft. The Lions would get Monroe Freeling, which would make me giddy. But you see the need for offensive linemen as this continues. They write the Lions' offensive line certainly wasn't up to par last season. It had the second worst pass block win rate, 56%. Detroit is considering moving All-Pro Penei Sewell from right to left tackle, but could certainly benefit from adding another elite prospect to the offensive line. Freeling, who has a prototypical frame for an offensive tackle at 6'7", 315 pounds, could improve the pass protection around quarterback Jared Goff. Freeling's experience at Georgia was primarily at left tackle. I truly believe that he could be a plug-and-play guy at left tackle by watching him. Let me finish it. Minnesota, Dylan Thieneman, outstanding safety for Oregon, and Purdue prior to that. Carolina at 19, they have him taking Kenyon Sadiq. He's the best tight end in the draft. Dallas at 20, Colton Hood. He's the cornerback from Tennessee, one of them. The other one is having more problems, reportedly, with his knee. Pittsburgh, Casey Concepcion, the wide receiver from Texas A&M. And then here's the other corner, Jermod McCoy, out of Tennessee, going to the Chargers. I thought the Chargers might look offensive line. Eagles, Denzel Boston, the wide receiver from Washington. This is surprising to me. How many wide receivers are going in this first round, according to ESPN.com? Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the safety out of Toledo, to Cleveland. And then Chicago taking Caden Proctor. Buffalo taking Cassius Howell. San Francisco taking Caleb Lomu. Guys who you see the offensive line. So when people say, well, you can always get this guy in the second round, and it closes out with New England taking Blake Miller, interesting enough. And again, this is the edge rusher from Auburn, Keldrick Falk, going 30th to Miami. This is all speculative. We understand that. But you see the run on offensive line. And we gave you the scenario yesterday here on X's and Bros. And we said, would you feel more comfortable taking the edge in round 1 and waiting for the tackle / lineman in round 2? Or would you rather go the other way around? The run on offensive linemen in this first round, by all accounts, not by every account, or I should say by most accounts, but not by every account, is significant. And the hard part about this is we don't necessarily know how the Lions have judged these prospects. But can that many teams be wrong about certain players? The reason we asked you the question for the Mitch Lions poll question is because there is a belief that the Lions are willing to trade up because of the first round grades they have on players. I have heard that they have roughly 13 first round grades on players in this year's draft. First round grades. Now, here's the thing I don't know. I don't know if they are looking at players only by what they need. Like, why would they put a first round grade on Fernando Mendoza? They're not drafting Fernando Mendoza. Do you understand what I mean by that? Why would you worry about Carnell Tate? You're not going to take Carnell Tate.
Yeah, no, you would assume it would be the people that they're maybe going to get.
You would assume. But that's not how draft rooms operate. They go in and they start marking down names and numbers. There's 32 first-round picks. You associate around with certain numbers, or certain names, I should say. So Mendoza would be a first round. Tate would be a first round. Jeremiah Love would be a first round, even though they're not drafting any of those players. Personally, I wouldn't have a first round grade on any quarterback. That's just my opinion. But everybody seems to love Fernando Mendoza, and I wish the kid well, because he seems like an upstanding, a really good guy. Although he can't throw out a first pitch if his life depended on it. If you saw the video from yesterday.
I did.
So I guess my question to you would be, give me the 13. Let's just base it off some intel here. Give me the 13 people you think are first-round grades for the Lions, knowing what they've done in the past. So, for example, if you don't believe that they think a player like Mekhi Lemon is a first-round grade, it seems a little odd, doesn't it? The more you do these mock drafts or read about these mock drafts, the more you talk about these mock drafts, the more you enjoy falling in love with certain players and truly believing what everybody is telling you.
Yeah, it's like the more you read on a player, the more you start to think that is all true, you know?
Yeah. I mean, of course, Amari Cooper is going to be a first-round pick. I see everybody telling us that he's the third best wide receiver in the draft and he's going to go first round. That doesn't mean the Lions feel like he's a first-round pick.
No, and time again, they've proven that under Brad Holmes because they've kind of went for their guy where they want to get him.
Right.
And traded up to get him.
Yeah. They know Jeremiah Love will be gone because every team does this. Every team does their own mock draft over and over and over and over. Wouldn't surprise me if they've done hundreds. Okay. But they know they're not going to have a shot at Mendoza. They're not going to have an opportunity to draft Bailey. Reese will be gone by the time they pick. Sonny Styles, Jeremiah Love, those guys are consensus top 5, top 6, top 7 picks. It's not unusual. Not a Tom Jones song. It's just not unusual. I don't know how you feel about Mauioa because he could be a guy, like I said, goes from tackle to guard. I'm sure they, just like most teams, have him as one of, if not the best, one of the best offensive linemen. It starts to get a little murky when you get past 10. And that's where the chess pieces are moved all around. If they moved up, it would have to be obviously for the right guy, but one of those guys they feel like would not last to 17 and what other teams might have to jump in front of them for. That's the big question that I think a lot of Lions fans have regarding this year's team is, how high do you have to jump to prevent the teams that might be looking to move up as well and get that one stud that you feel like is a plug-and-play guy? We'll get to some texts on the other side. Rene Rivera is the manager of the Michigan Whitecaps. He joins us at 7:35. Bryce Rayner made his debut last night. Andy was there. He'll tell us about that a little bit. And 8:35, Colton Pouncey. His thoughts on the philosophy of possibly moving up or moving down to gain extra picks. All that and more coming up as we roll on a Wednesday morning, brought to you by Michelin's Wealth.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu.
Saturday night, May 23rd.
Carry on my wayward son.
Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort welcomes multi-platinum legends, Kansas. Tickets start at $60 and are on sale now at the box office or etix.com.
Just in the wind.
Don't miss the best of classic rock. Kansas returns to Soaring Eagle Saturday, May 23rd. SoaringEagleCasino.com.
Huge here with a message for all the golfers all across Michigan. Have you played at Crystal Mountain? Now, the resort is located in Thompsonville, Michigan, 2.5 hours northwest of Grand Rapids. They feature Mountain Ridge and Betsy Valley, 2 renowned 18-hole championship layouts, incredible accommodations, food, beverages, and more. It's time for you to book a stay-and-play package at Crystal Mountain today. Go to crystalmountain.com. That's crystalmountain.com.
Motown Legends, TNT, together again. Temptation, 4 tops. Saturday night, May 9th at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Tickets start at $55 and on sale now at the box office at etix.com. Saturday night, May 9th at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Temps and tops together again.
Where are you watching the Tigers this year? Superfly Hayes here for Detroit Sports Net. Sign up like the Huge Show did with the Detroit Sports Net Tigers Wings package. Subscription info at tigers.com and MLB.com.
Coming up later today at 3 on The Huge Show on the Michigan Sports Network, I'll deliver huge opinions on everything you're talking about.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community. Just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements, this center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact that Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
Second hour of the program. Welcome back, X's and Bros throughout the great state of Michigan. Appreciate you joining us on a Wednesday morning. Tigers a loser 12-4 last night. Winners on the hardwood last night. Philadelphia beating Boston, which surprises a lot of people that series is now tied at 1 apiece. Portland beating San Antonio, which, again, has surprised a lot of people since that series is also tied at a win apiece. I don't think many people know they did lose Victor Wembanyama in the second quarter. However, that team, San Antonio, without Victor Wembanyama, built a 14-point fourth quarter lead and still lost. And the Lakers beat the Rockets and are up 2-0. In the hockey, Tampa trimmed Montreal 3-2. The series tied at 1. Boston doubled up Buffalo 4-2. That series tied at 1. Utah took care of business in a 3-2 win over Vegas. That series is all square. And Colorado has a 2-0 lead on the Kings after beating them 2-1 for the second consecutive game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is also the clutch player of the year. Last year was Jalen Brunson. This year it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Cade Cunningham finished 4th in the voting. Here's the Mitchell Lions Wealth poll question. Would you rather see the Lions trade up, trade down, or stand pat? Now, you can vote as often as you want at XB Mornings. I've retweeted it at Shep Matt. We'll give you the results tomorrow. I had mentioned prior to the break that Detroit, there's a belief that the Lions could trade up to get the lineman that they want. That they've identified roughly 13 players with first-round grades. This is definitely possible because of what Brad Holmes has done in the past. And the trades is not something foreign to him by any stretch. In fact, if you look at it, you look at the overall body of Brad Holmes's work, then you recognize that he's not afraid to do the things that we've just talked about. All right. The fact that Brad Holmes has made numerous trades, 27, to be honest with you. If you think about the numbers, okay, he has had 36 total draft selections. If I asked you, Andy, what percentage or what number, take 36, tell me how many you think he's drafted offensively, how many he's drafted defensively.
For just Brad Holmes?
For just Brad Holmes. In the 36 career draft picks as general manager of the Detroit Lions, how many have been on offense? How many have been on defense?
I want to say 24 have been on offense.
Okay. So you had 24 on offense. That gives you 12 on defense, right? Because he's had 36. 17 offense, 19 defense.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know why I felt like so much more offense to me.
No, that's cool.
Maybe
I
early in the draft, but I'd love to know what their early draft picks have been mostly. But
if I asked you how many trades do you think he's made, what would you say? Now he's been there for 5 years. This is his 6th draft. So in 5 years, how many trades do you think he's made?
6.
27.
That's insane.
He's made
in the
almost
draft alone.
Yes, he's made about 5.5 a year.
Wow, that's
okay.
crazy.
These are facts. He has drafted more players out of Alabama than anybody else. Okay, and he's drafted more out of the SEC than anybody else. He's drafted 4 picks out of Alabama. He's drafted 13 picks from the Southeast Conference, which many people feel like, it's the best conference and so on and so forth. Okay, that's cool. I mean, it could be a hell of a lot worse, right? I did read something yesterday on a football website that Todd McShay, the former ESPN guy, loves Blake Miller and has him as the 3rd best offensive tackle in the draft, the 15th overall prospect. He's out of Clemson. He writes, Miller compares well to 2016 Detroit first-rounder Taylor Decker, who started 145 games for the Lions. Decker is a left tackle. Miller is a plug-and-play right tackle, but both are relentless and have good power, experience, toughness, and size. It's worth noting that Miller has long arms and tested better at his combine. Okay? That is something from Todd McShay. Blake Miller could be a guy who is there for the Lions, without question. When I say to you that Peter Schrager, who is a guy who is, I think, respected, okay, used to work for NFL Network, now works for ESPN. When I say that the Lions could trade up to get their guy, I am not the only one thinking this. Schrager feels the exact same way. His draft compared to the NFL Nation on ESPN.com draft is very different. The top is very similar. It changes at number 3, but he goes Mendoza to the Raiders, Bailey to the Jets, Love to the Cardinals, Jeremiah Love, the run back from Notre Dame, Tennessee taking Sonny Styles, and then the Giants taking Arvell Reese, the edge out of Ohio State, which is crazy that he could last to 5. Cleveland taking Spencer Fano, Washington taking Carnell Tate, the Saints taking Caleb Downs. You see the philosophy? In the ESPN Nation draft, they had the Saints taking a wide receiver, Carnell Tate. In this one, they go defense with the best safety in the draft and Caleb Downs, who's a very safe pick. They project a trade that the Cowboys move up with Kansas City to take Mansour Delane. Instead of a wide receiver like the writers chose, Schrager thinks Dallas goes defense, and I think that makes a ton of sense. They need it in the secondary, as I mentioned. You had the Giants taking Jordan Tyson with their second first-round pick, Miami taking Francis Mauigoa, Kansas City, who moved down, grabbed Ruben Bain, and then the trade. The Lions moved from 17 to 13 with the Rams. Makes sense. Brad Holmes knows the Rams well, right? He's got contacts there. He's got people he's friends with there. The Lions getting 13 for 17, number 118, and a second-round pick next year. How would you feel about that? You could still hold on to your second-round pick this year, 50, but you lose your fourth-round pick.
I mean, I don't hate it or anything. I guess it depends on what he ends up doing with it in the end, right? But yeah, I don't hate the pick. Again, he's done so many of these that you want to give him the benefit of the doubt that a lot of them have worked out. So,
well, I mean, a lot of them haven't worked out.
Last year's kind of the
the
problem.
A lot of them haven't worked out, and that's part of the problem. You could also argue, listen, it's not like they've been really good with third-round picks in the past, second-round picks either. Anyway, Schrager writes this. Lions via projected trade with the Rams. They get the 13th overall pick, and they select Caden Proctor, the tackle out of Alabama. Taylor Decker was released, and Proctor is still sitting there. So general manager Brad Holmes might call up his old team and see if the Rams are open for business. Proctor would be a huge presence, 6'7", 352 at left tackle for Jared Goff and the Detroit offense, and taking left tackle would mean Penei Sewell could stay on the right side. Well, I don't disagree with that. You could also take Monroe Freeling at the left tackle, and I think that's what it comes down to. We don't know the Lions board. Would the Lions feel like, because if you look at the way the rest of this draft goes, according to Schrager, Blake Miller would still be there at 17. Monroe Freeling would be there at 17, who they have going to the Steelers a little bit later on. I mean, it comes down to how do you have your tackles ranked? We'll get to some of your texts on the other side. It's 10 after the hour here on X's and Bros. We're brought to you this hour by our friends at Meijer.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
If you're the largest selling comedy recording artist in history,
You might be a redneck.
Jeff Foxworthy, Friday, June 12th, inside the Soaring Eagle Entertainment Hall.
Our parents can't text and our children can't write.
Tickets start at $60 and are on sale now at the box office and online at etix.com. Laugh it up at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort, Friday, June 12th with Jeff Foxworthy.
My father-in-law got his chest hair caught in his zipper.
SoaringEagleCasino.com.
Motown Legends. TNT together again. Temptation. More tops. Saturday night, May 9th at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Tickets start at $55 and on sale now at the box office at etix.com. Saturday night, May 9th at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Temps and tops together again.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
Where are you watching the Tigers this year? Superfly Hayes here for Detroit Sportsnet. Sign up like the Huge Show did with the Detroit Sportsnet Tigers Wings package. Subscription info at tigers.com and MLB.com.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu.
18 after the hour. Welcome back. I was just watching some vintage footage of the 1969 NFL AFL draft from the Belmont Hotel where it took place in New York. And it's pretty funny because everybody's running up there and pushing their microphone to be on one small MC stand, if you will, for Pete Rozelle. You have people with cameras that, look ancient and are ancient. And then you have people from various teams, representatives from various teams, sitting tables just side by side, as close together like they were at some type of dinner party, making deals and or making draft picks and having conversations about those draft picks. Like you wonder how anyone was able to get through something like that without tipping their hand. And then hosts on this, not that they brought the entire draft to the way it is now, but members like Jack Whitaker and Howard Cosell and Ed Sable, who founded NFL Films, were all smoking while on TV. It's hilarious. Just talking about the draft and talking about how it should go and puffing away and putting out a cigarette. It's classic. Let me get to some text real quick, and then we'll move on. Shep, this is from our friend Freddie, which I love. As much as we critique Yzerman, and rightfully so, but I think there is one thing he never really gets credit for. That's hiring John Cooper. Has Cooper been the best head coach / manager in the last 15 years in sports, along with Bochy and Kerr? I think it's hard to deny. He's won 2 cups. They were back-to-back cups, and then he went to 2 more. It's pretty impressive, for a guy who was a lawyer, then decided while as a lawyer to coach high school hockey, Lansing Catholic, and then moved to eventually the USHL, the AHL, and then Yzerman gave him his first opportunity with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And he did so in 2010. Okay. He did that he coached the Norfolk Admirals in 2010. He was promoted 3 years later by Yzerman to take over the Tampa Bay Lightning job, which is interesting because they had to fire Guy Boucher at the time. Shep, after listening and watching players in the draft where they may slot, I now want the Lions to trade down about 8 to 10 spots, pick up a second and a third, and load up on some big nasty guards and defensive tackles, then a corner or safety they target. Okay. So if you trade down, I don't know what the value always is. You trade down 8 to 10 spots. If Detroit trades down, we can do the math together. They're at 17. If they trade down to 8 spots, you're talking about number 25. Who are you getting there? If you trade down 10 spots at 27, are you going to miss out on your player? If you have a first round draft grade on only 13 players, which is what I've heard, trading down means you're getting what you consider, not what Freddie and I consider, what you the organization consider a second round talent in the first round. That's a lot of head shaking, right? That's a lot of questions from internally. Why would you move down to grab somebody in the first round when you believe when we all have them as second round picks? Doesn't seem to make a ton of sense. I don't think you'd be able to pick up a second and a third this year in the same draft. I mean, for example, as I mentioned, Pete Schrager says if the Lions were to move up and trade up with the Rams, what they would do in that situation to get to 13 is they would give up a fourth and a future second round. So if you're going to move down 8 spots, do you think you're going to get an additional second and a third round this year? That might be pretty difficult.
Yeah, we had another texter, Doug from Kalamazoo, saying the Lions need to move down if possible to get back a third round pick. I don't know.
I would have no problem with that.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, I would have no problem with that. Again, the issue remains, though. How are you going to justify moving down if you have a finite number of first-round grades on people? And if you move down to get a third-round pick, how far do you have to move down? You are also taking yourself out of, the opportunity to possibly draft the player that you truly A, want, and B, need.
Yeah, the immediate impact player that's gonna help you out right away.
Right. So if let's just say, for sake of argument, you trade down and the team you trade with takes a player you want, Caden Proctor, Monroe Freeling. Not many teams trade out and say, I still can't get the player I want. You trade down, you still feel you can get one of the players that you want. How far down do you have to go? And then you ask yourself, how many other teams in between those spots are going to take one of the players that you admire most? If you happen to trade down just to get a third-round pick, and I'm just using this position as the example. If you trade down to get just a third-round pick and you miss out on Freeling, Miller, and Proctor, and you have them all as first-round grades, and I doubt that they do, but then what do? You shift gears and you take an edge. The problem is a lot of those edges will be gone.
Yeah, it'd be a lot tougher at that position or at that point in the draft if you get the for sure player you want. But
exactly. Now, if you happen to move down to get a third and it's in the 20s and you get one of those guys, then it's an ideal situation. That's a pretty big matzo ball out there, Georgie. Seinfeld line. If maybe you go out and you get an edge. Maybe Keldrick Falk is still there and you have a first-round grade on him and you could see taking him in the high 20s. Maybe it's Max Ianachor, however you say his name, out of Arizona State. That's going to be a tough one. Maybe that's the situation, and you can trade down and get that third-round pick, and then you can get a safety in the third round. And the second round, you get an edge, somebody who's really high on your board. I don't know. I think that's a heavy risk, trading down. Based on what he's done in the past, I would think that he would trade up more than he would trade down.
Yeah,
but I hate the loss of a third round pick. I think you can get a good player there. This is supposedly a very deep draft. It's also a very deep draft at offensive line, as we've talked about. The problem is everybody knows that, and that's why a lot of people are taking offensive linemen in the first round. Every draft has a defining moment based on players at certain positions. Some drafts are quarterback heavy. Some drafts are wide receiver heavy. This draft, first round anyway, seems to be offensive lineman heavy. You could see 7 to 8 offensive linemen drafted based on all the mocks. The Lions, we need to answer, and they're not going to answer it for us until draft night. How many linemen do they truly feel are worthy of a first-round grade? If you believe it's Mauioa as one, which is a consensus, Aonia is another, there's 2, and you feel like you've got to move up to 13, that means there's only 11 other players you have as first-round grades on them. And we already know that there's at least 7 or 8 that we truly believe is a consensus with the Loves and the Styles and the Reeses and the Baileys, okay? That leaves very few offensive linemen. You are running a serious risk trading down and not getting that guy you truly wanted. We'll get to more text coming up. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Always appreciate the comments on YouTube, Facebook, and X. When we come back, we'll dive into a little baseball discussion. Rene Rivera, the manager of the Michigan Whitecaps, West Michigan Whitecaps, will join us to talk about Bryce Rayner and how he prepares his teams for moving up in a farm system here on X's and Bros, brought to you by Meyer after this.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meyer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meyer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in MPerks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meyer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
You've worked hard for decades saving in pre-tax retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, saving on taxes now. But as your retirement now approaches, you're going to get taxed at rates you have no control over. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Your 401k balance isn't worth what your statement says. You could lose thousands of dollars to taxes, and those distributions can impact other areas of your retirement like Social Security and Medicare. Could a Roth IRA conversion be of help to you? You've probably heard of Roth conversions, but it can be confusing. Should you convert all at once or over time? Where should you pay the taxes from? How do you know for sure? Get our free personalized Roth Blueprint analysis today to find out exactly what makes sense for you. Your Roth Blueprint could potentially increase your lifetime wealth by thousands of dollars. So get your free Roth Blueprint today. Text Blueprint to 844-867-8335. That's Blueprint to 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLyonsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
How would you like to watch the Pistons in the playoffs on the biggest TV in Michigan? Well, you can get a huge deal and also get the biggest TV at your local ABC Warehouse store. You can shop online right now at abcwarehouse.com. They have locations all across Michigan. So if you want to watch the Pistons in the playoffs on the biggest TV in your neighborhood, go to your local ABC Warehouse store or shop online at abcwarehouse.com.
35 after the hour. Welcome back. We talk a lot about the draft. Our next guest knows all about getting drafted. Rene Rivera, who is the manager of the West Michigan Whitecaps, was a second-round pick by the Seattle Mariners, 49th overall in the 2001 Major League Draft. And as a 17-year-old, he joins us here on X's and Bros. Skip, we appreciate it very much. How are you today?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. What was, I mean, I know it was a while back, okay? I think you're 42 now, so this was back in 2001, but I'm sure you still remember. What is draft day like? What was draft day like for you, even though it's in a different sport and the NFL draft is tomorrow, but what was draft day like for you?
You know, it was a special moment, a little different than now that, you know, everybody's in the stage, all the players together. Back in the days, you stay at home and you just wait for a phone call. So a little different, but emotions was running high. You know, family get together and waiting for the phone call. And, you know, fortunately, I got the call with Seattle. Back in the days, the scout of your, you know, area will call you and let you know the Seattle pick you second round pick. And it was an amazing moment. You know, I remember that day now that, you know, with my family, you know, a lot of hugs and a lot of emotions running. And it was a special moment.
You made your major league debut roughly 3 years later. How do you describe the grind of minor league baseball to players you manage now?
You know what? It was a process. However, that, you know, one of the things that got me being a coach it was my career. So, like, I was a really young player, prospect, talented player, and I got to the big leagues really quick. And I tell you what, I got to the big league was for that moment wasn't hard. However, it was the afterwards. You know, got to the big leagues at a really young age. Spent a few years in the big leagues and have to go back to the minor leagues, and that was a grind. Try to get back, you know, spending the next 5 years in the minor leagues, you know, with 3 different teams, and that was the grind and the hard work, and get back in, you know, what people knew about me and work harder to have another opportunity to get back to the big league. So that was the moment of grinding my career. Was the next 5 years after I played in the big leagues.
Rene Rivera was the Florida State League Manager of the Year in Lakeland. He is the manager of the West Michigan Whitecaps now, Detroit's High A affiliate. You have had a lot of really good players that you have managed. You're managing some right now, and we'll talk about them here in a moment. But you have, I believe, managed Max Clark and Kevin McGonigal. What stood out to you about both their talent?
They're both talented players. When I have Kevin and Max, they're, you know, a couple years younger than now, and, you know, they just got drafted. They just both just make the first professional appearance, and you can see that both of those two guys, they're special. You know, how they play the game, how talented they are, and, you know, you can see the maturity of, you know, playing baseball. They both have, you know, like any other players, they both have to develop and get better in different areas, but you can see the difference between those two.
I said before the season began that I thought Kevin McGonigal would be one of those bat-to-ball skill guys. He would take pitchers deeper in counts. He has a great eye. How do you learn those types of traits, bat to ball and an eye at the plate? I don't always think it Renee, I don't always think it's about pitches you swing at, but it's pitches you don't swing at. How do you describe his hitting prowess?
Yeah, you can work on that. You can refine that tool. I think everybody can do it. But there's guys like McGonagall special that they just born to play baseball. They're born to hit. And McGonagall, I feel like he's one of those guys that, they will take good at bats every single day. Every single at bat, every moment they step in the plate, that something special can happen. So, McGonagall, Kevin, is one of those guys, talented that he just, God gave him the opportunity to hit and be a really good hitter. So he's one of those guys.
Renee, Max Clark is viewed as a guy who's a little bit of a flashy player. I think he's an outstanding all-around player, and that maybe people labeled him too quickly because of some struggles he's had in spring training. What do you like most about the way he goes about playing the game of baseball?
If the people get the opportunity to know Max, he's one of the one of the best guys you can have in your clubhouse. He's a lot of energy, great kid. And sometimes as a player, like, you have to find your identity. His identity is be him, be the guy, like, people say he's flashy, like, and that's who he is, and that's the way he has to be himself. So I like I say, I love the kid, and I wish him the best. I think that he's a special kid, high school player that might take a little bit to get to the big leagues, but he will get to the big leagues, and he'll be successful up there.
Renee Rivera, the manager of the West Michigan Whitecaps, joining us here on X's and Bros. For people who don't know, what's the process with you and your communication with folks at AA or AAA or even the Major League Club about progress reports on your young players? How does that work?
So every level, we got player plans. Every player's got their plan and what the organization want to see him develop in that year. So our process is, number one, try to accomplish those goals, and make him better, make him mature as a baseball player, grow up as a baseball player, and then when he's ready, the organization will decide to move up to a level or not. But my job as a manager, or job as in the coaching staff, is try to help this player accomplish his goal. And I believe that also in the process from development is winning. And AJ, Scott in the big leagues, they love to win. They love to play really good every night. So our mentality and our process here in the player development department is, develop these players, take up, the most out of it, and try to win some games.
One of the young players you now have is Bryce Rayner. He was just called up from Lakeland to West Michigan and made his debut with you last night, I believe, and went 0 for 4 with a few punch-outs. But it's him, it's Max Anderson, and it's Kevin McGonigal, who are viewed as possible future infielders for this team, along with Cole Keith at the big league level. How do you determine whether a guy is right for second, short, or third base when you have those types of talent within your system?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So if we see them and see our big league club and how AJ and Scott in the big leagues like to move people around. Javi Baez, shortstop, talented, really, really talented player at shortstop, but he plays second, third, center field. In the minor league side, we draft a kid, a player, to see a shortstop. Rice is his shortstop. So, we will develop him as a shortstop and, make him a really good player at short. However, there will be a moment, and that's Scott and AJ decision up there, that we might move, Bryce around in the infield, because when he gets to the big leagues and when he plays for AJ, he might have to play second base. He might have to play third base. So we give the opportunity for the player to develop in his position, his primary position. And, after a few years, AJ and Scott will decide, it's time to try him in another position, to see how we can handle that.
As a manager, how do you balance the psychological aspect of the sport, because it can be so draining, and the physical aspect of the sport with young players?
I think that the communication is a big thing, especially in the lower levels. Some of these players, they're the first time they play 130 games. Some of them is the second year. And it's a grind, especially coming from Lakeland, that every trip was hour and 2 hours. Now you go into to the Midwest, and trips are longer, bus ride are longer. Time change. We played last night at 6:30. We played today at 12. So those two things you have to communicate with the players. Help them make a routine, take care of their body, recovery, eat well, do your recovery section, go to the gym, get your body strong. So you just have to communicate with them, help them develop a schedule for themselves, and understand that they're gonna be struggle someday. It's a long season, and you just try to focus on the good things.
Yeah, I've said this for a long time. In my days in baseball, I said people don't realize when they talk about a grind, it's not just the fact that you're playing 162 games and you have roughly 24 to 25 days off. That's it. That's all you have during the season. It's more about the daily routine, what time you get to the park and what you're doing. How encouraging are you to players that they create that routine quickly? We've seen Paul Skeens with his routine on a regular basis that looks so monotonous, but it's obviously working for him. How important is that for an everyday player? And take us through what you think is usually a daily routine of some guys by the time they get to the ballpark and by the time they leave.
That's a really good question for not only myself, it's for every kid, young players that is listening to the show. I think that the faster you can create your routine, the faster you understand what it takes to play the game. Coming in, hitting go to the training room, do your commute, go to the gym, get stronger. Then, you go to the cage, you get ready in the cage with the hitting coach. Then we have to go out, take ground balls, play catch. Sometimes we have to work in different, stuff that you need to get better. And then we have to play a game. So the day get longer. Usually players get here for a 6:35 game. They'll get here at 12, and they start doing their commute. They start doing their stretching, recovery, and advanced meetings on all that. So the day is longer. However, I will always say that the faster you can create your own routine, your own program that works for you, the faster you're going to develop, the faster you're going to get to the big leagues.
Last thing for you, besides Bryce Rayner, who's the big name, who else excites you on your West Michigan team right now?
You know, we got really good talented players. I think Jackson Strong is a really good player. Garen Pennington is a college player that came in a couple of years ago and making a really impact case. And we got a couple arms. Lucas Eliso is a player from Miami that he's making his case. Castillo is a really talented player from Dominican. And then they are Willie Hadin that just got hurt. He's a really talented player. So they're in the process. There's some of these players only have a couple of years of professional baseball, so they still try to figure out their identity and to the process to develop. But we have the opportunity to help them accomplish their stuff and make them better. So that's what we're here for.
Renee, learned an awful lot from you. Hope we can chat down the road. Continued success there in West Michigan. Thanks for the time today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Renee Rivera, who is the skipper, the manager of the West Michigan Whitecaps, joining us here on X's and Bros. Good stuff, man. I mean, the routine is so important. It really is. And I think we are, tell me if you think I'm wrong here, Andy. I think we are creatures of habit anyway.
100%.
I think people want, certain routines. Maybe sometimes it can be a little monotonous.
Sure. I think your question about those routines is really important, because that is like the coolest thing about our job is sometimes you get to get to the ballpark a little bit earlier and see how early they get there and what they're doing. That's why I would suggest to some fans that, are into that kind of stuff or want to see more about it, you should try to get there as early as they'll let you in sometimes, because it is fun to watch them take batting practice and go through what they go through every single day. At that job.
And that's what you can see behind the scenes. I know when I was calling Tigers, I took the first bus every single game because I like doing work at the ballpark more than in my hotel room.
Oh, it's awesome, man.
So there's something being in a broadcast booth and looking out at a major league ballpark and just getting some inspiration. Oftentimes, some people get a little upset with me because the crew isn't there to set up, especially for game one of a series. And I'm sitting there at the desk and they're trying to move the audio wires and get the camera set up and so on and so forth. But it's just where I felt comfortable. And then I would oftentimes go down and watch these guys take infield practice. It's not just batting practice, but the little things where they're on their knees and they've got a pancake glove and they're fielding grounders to make sure they have soft hands. To go in the clubhouse and see guys playing cards with one another or doing something to keep their brain active and reading over scouting reports. Those to me are the fun things, but oftentimes people don't see because those guys get there so early. They're not out for viewership and they're not out there at a time where you are able to get into the ballpark in general. Good stuff from Renee Rivera. 8:35. Colton Pouncey will join us. We'll talk Lions draft here on X's and Bros. We're brought to you this hour by our friends at Meyer.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive boys and girls high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com.
Motown Legends, TNT, together again. Temptation. Boy, Tops. Saturday night, May 9th at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Tickets start at $55 and on sale now at the box office and etix.com. Saturday night, May 9th at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Temps and tops together again.
Farrah's Coffee has been family owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Farrah's Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
Good stuff from Renee Rivera. We'll put that out as a podcast a little bit later on. Some things that you could definitely learn. Welcome back. X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9. We're brought to you this hour by Avello Air and AvelloAir.com. Just a reminder that today, our friend Bill Simonson, on these same great stations on this great network, Michigan Sports Network, will be at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort and their sportsbook Ascend. It is there where he will broadcast live, and I'll have a watch party for Game 2 against Orlando tonight as the Pistons take on Orlando. I don't know about you. I can't stand the amount of time in between games. You know, I wish it was every other day.
Yeah, no, I wonder. I feel like players don't like it either. I feel like they'd want it to be every other day almost.
I think you're right about that.
It's just based off what I've heard and seen.
Well, you were there the other day at practice, so you talked to some of the players.
Yeah, no. I'm sure that they would rather have it not be like this. Like, you got to think in their mind right now, especially in the Pistons end after a game like that. You don't want to be sitting and thinking on that for that long. You know what I mean? The more and more you're gonna let creep in.
Everybody is. We look for people to blame. I mean, we do in life. All right, whose fault is it that I'm not getting this? Whose fault is it my team hasn't done that? And I understand that. I don't think we're unique in that regard. Everybody wants to blame somebody for the Pistons' loss in Game 1 against Orlando. Who's most to blame?
It feels pretty shared to me, but I feel like the most part you just heard that Duren didn't do enough inside, and then I've heard a lot of stuff about Asar Thompson not getting his minutes. I feel like that's
so that would be primarily JB Bickerstaff. And coaches get it's no different than probably a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL. Too much blame when they lose, not enough credit when they win, or too much credit when they win, I should say. The easy thing to do is point to Duren because he didn't have a good game, number one, but number two, the productivity was not there. You expect 20 and 10 from him. And I don't think that's outrageous.
No,
I know
how he did all year.
Yeah, I do know it's difficult, but yeah, that's what he's done. He did 19 and a half and 10 and a half, 11. But more than that, he got to the free throw line. He was better at the free throw line. He did a lot of different things. He only had 4 field goal attempts. This is not a guy like you can blame Tobias Harris because he had a bad night shooting 5 for 15. When you look at Jalen Duren, did he have a bad night because he wasn't commanding the ball or because JB Bickerstaff didn't make the proper adjustment to make sure that he was getting the ball?
No, that's exactly it. I mean, I think that people wanted to see them make adjustments, and they just kind of didn't throughout that game. It felt like they just kind of stuck with the same game plan pretty much until the end, and it really didn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of blame to go around. You're going to see tonight, if I said to you, Asar Thompson is going to play 30 minutes, would you take the over or the under after he played, 22 minutes the other night, 23 minutes the other night? Would you take the over or under on 30?
I mean, I want to say I'd be right around that because wasn't the second half he played like 9 minutes or something like that?
Nine and a half.
That's what it was. Yeah,
33.
I would definitely do the over on that after what happened.
I would agree with that. I think he's going to be right there. If I had to go over or under, it might be slightly over 30 and change, but I think that's the right place. Here's JB Bickerstaff on the Asar Thompson situation. Because he was asked about this the other day. There are certain themes from a game that you're going to take out of it. Last night, the Tigers pitching, it sucked, right? They didn't get timely hitting. A.J. Hinch was frustrated at their lack of fundamentals, all those different things, right? Well, the theme from the Pistons was Duren didn't do enough. J.B. Bickerstaff didn't adjust. And why the hell would he pull Asar Thompson when he was a plus in the net rating and everybody else was a minus, especially in the fourth quarter? Here's what J.B. Bickerstaff said about trying to find that balance with a player like Thompson.
It's one of those balancing acts that you're trying to figure out in the moment of what you need. Having more ball handlers on the floor, being able to take Cade off the ball some, kind of free him up. And so you're balancing that. Like he was able to be aggressive in that quarter, and find some success off the ball. But again, it's one of those things that, you're trying to figure out in the moment what the team needs now. And we know how important AT is for us. And he'll have a consistent role as always because we know how impactful he is, especially down the stretch.
Yeah, a lot of that's word salad stuff. It doesn't necessarily answer the question. We know everything's a balance. Everything's a balance in life, for crying out loud. Okay. But the balance that he's talking about with Asar Thompson, what people really want to know is how do you take a guy off the floor against a team that is beating you with its shooting? So why would you not keep a guy on the floor who is third in Defensive Player of the Year voting, going to be a first-team all-defense NBA team, and a guy who has been that guy for you all season long, and you have a backup point guard like Dennis Jenkins playing almost as many minutes as him when he was struggling? Dennis Jenkins struggled. He was 1 for 9.
Exactly.
Okay?
And it feels like he was in a way trying to defend that decision almost to keep him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where I was going. He was almost defending the fact that he kept him on the floor or kept him off the floor for as long as he did, when that's not the right approach. And I'm not saying he should sit there and follow up and do, what the Lions offensive coordinator did a year ago when he came out and said, you know what, I've failed Jamison Williams. I told him I've failed him. No, that's not what we need to know, John Morton. We need to know how you're going to incorporate him. You don't have to do a mea culpa with us. We need to know how you're going to incorporate him. JB Bickerstaff probably would have been better off saying, look, we all know how important he is. This is what we need to do with him is make sure that he's totally engaged in the defensive game plan, that he is switching when he's supposed to switch, and that he is crawling under screens or going over screens, whatever that game plan may be. Because there is speculation that there's a bit of a rift between him and JB Bickerstaff. If Bickerstaff is just going to dig his heels in and say, this was the right call, everybody else is going to go scoreboard. How could it be the right call? Scoreboard. He would have made a difference. If we all believe that coaching, and we should believe this because it's so true, coaching is about making adjustments, putting your players in their best position to succeed, then it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to have taken him out in the fourth quarter and to see Jalen Duren get frustrated all night by only having 4 field goal attempts. Your adjustments did not match what was taking place. Let's see. Shep, I will be curious to see how many shots Cade Cunningham takes today, how many minutes Paul Reed plays today, and how many minutes Jenkins does not play. Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah, the crowd was actually chanting for B-ball Paul over and over again in the fourth quarter of that game, which I thought was kind of out of nowhere too. But yeah, we're definitely going for that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Not that the crowd is wrong here, but I mean, as a coach, you don't do that. You might do that when you're in a blowout situation. Dusty May wants to bring his son off the bench because people are saying, yes, I want to get excited about something because this game's already been decided. But if you're JB Bickerstaff, you're not playing Paul Reed for the sake of pleasing the fan base.
Yeah,
you're playing Paul Reed, who's going to help you win the game. The weird thing about this whole situation is when you got Dennis Jenkins playing 22 minutes and he's 1 for 8, 1 for 9. He was 1 for 7. I said 1 for 9. I apologize. He was 1 for 7. He's 1 for 7. You know damn well he's struggling. He's not having a good game. If you're going to pull Asar Thompson because you saw something that maybe he wasn't following the game plan or he was struggling a little bit in 25 minutes, 8 points, 7 boards, I might add. 3 steals. His 3 steals were a third of what the entire team had. If you're noticing that, how are you not noticing Dennis Jenkins? Why is he playing more? The obvious answer is you don't have many ball handlers on this team. You have Cade Cunningham and everybody else. Folks, Cade Cunningham has missed enough time this year where he could be fresh enough, where he can carry this load. This is what teams do in the postseason. Colton Pouncey is going to join us at the bottom of the hour. Excited to get his thoughts on his final mock draft as he gets ready for day one of the NFL draft tomorrow. He joins us as the Athletic Lions beat writer at 8:35 on X's and Bros, brought to you by Avelo Airlines.
In the Den with Dan Dickerson.
DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code HUGE for a special offer when you sign up. That's code HUGE, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Framber Valdez's last two starts are a great example of what an ace pitcher adds to a rotation. Against the Royals, Valdez only struck out one, but he went 7 innings and allowed just 1 run on 3 hits and 2 walks with no hard contact. He didn't have command of his key pitch, his curveball, and he couldn't get swing and miss, so he did what all the good ones do, figure out how to go deep on a day when everything feels just a little bit off, and then make an adjustment. Over the weekend, in miserable conditions in Boston, Valdez did just that. He reminded us why he has the most wins in baseball the last 5 years. He found the feel on his curveball, pounded Red Sox hitters in with a swing-back fastball, and had them flailing at his changeup. Valdez threw 6 shutout innings, and given the conditions, it was easily his best start as a Tiger.
Huge here for all the Buffalo Wild Wings locations in Michigan. Your home for Tigers baseball all season long. Weekday afternoon game, night games, weekends. Bring the family, friends, co-workers, neighbors in to watch the Tigers at your local Buffalo Wild Wings. Also, the Carmody brothers, who played football at Ferris State University, wanted me to remind everybody that the Ferris State football spring game is Friday night, April 24th at Top Taggart Field in Big Rapids. Kickoff at 6 p.m.
Where are you watching the Tigers this year? Superfly Hayes here for Detroit Sportsnet. Sign up like the Ute Show did with the Detroit Sportsnet Tigers Wings package. Subscription info at tigers.com and MLB.com.
Coming up later today at 3 on the Huge Show on the Michigan Sports Network, I'll deliver huge opinions on everything you're talking about.
It starts always with us defensively. And you go back and watch the film of that, and we weren't ourselves defensively. I think a telling tale is, typically when we play them, they go to the free throw line a ton, right? I think about 36 times a game. We went 38, but they went 19. So that means we weren't playing our brand of basketball, being physical, being handsy, being aggressive, and that kind of set the tone for it.
So JB Bickerstaff again yesterday talking about the recap of game one, if you will. You know what's interesting about that, Andy? He said we weren't necessarily playing our game. They went to the line 38 times.
Yeah, I found that quote like super interesting too. It's like
I don't if they're aggressive, maybe I'm off base here. We've always associated this. We've associated with aggressiveness with whistles. Who gets the whistles? The teams that are the most aggressive. That's what we always seem to say. You're rewarded by going to the free throw line. You would think the more aggressive team would be at the free throw line more frequently. And in game one, Detroit went 28 of 39. Orlando went 14 of 19. I thought all season long, again, tell me if you think I'm wrong here. I thought all season long, Detroit felt like they were the more aggressive team in basketball. When on a night-to-night basis, they were more aggressive than their opposition.
I'd find it hard to believe that anybody would really disagree with that.
Okay. let me tell you how I support that. No team in the NBA in the postseason, I know it's just one game or two games, Detroit took more free throws than anybody else in a preseason game. During the regular season, only Orlando and the Lakers attempted more free throws than the Pistons. The Pistons averaged 26 free throw attempts per game. Orlando averaged 27 and a half. The Lakers averaged 27. If that's the case, wouldn't you think it's Orlando who would be saying, we didn't play our game? Usually we get to the free throw line.
Yeah, that's where I found the quote kind of confusing. I didn't really understand it with how that game went, I guess.
Very odd. Very odd. How
is it not your game? How do you not want to get to the free throw line when you're being aggressive? You don't want to put the other team in foul trouble? Like I don't know. I don't understand it. But
maybe it's because Detroit is just kind of an average free throw
shooting team. Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah,
but,
I mean they shoot 76% from the line. I mean, look, you and I both know they're not a 3-point shooting team.
Yeah, so
am I wrong?
Yeah, you'd think getting those opportunities would be one of the things that could help you out. But
yeah, they are not. Detroit is kind of the outlier when it comes to this stuff. The only team that took fewer triples than the Pistons this year were the Sacramento Kings. The Pistons averaged 31 3-point attempts per game. Golden State averaged the most. When Golden State, then Charlotte, then Portland, then Boston. Okay. The fewest, Sacramento, then Detroit, then Houston and Dallas. So if that's the case, and they're not taking threes, but they are one of the more frequent visitors to the free throw line, I would have guessed that that's exactly how the game went. If I said to JB Bickerstaff, your team got to the free throw line 38 times compared to Orlando's 19. Do you think before the game he would have signed up for that? I would guess so.
You'd think.
And yet he comes out and says, this is not our style. You could tell it wasn't our style. It really flies in the face of adversity as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly. That's how I felt about it too. It's why I picked that one out, because I was like, to me, it seems like the weirdest thing you could say about that game. I don't really get it, but
yeah, I don't get it either. If they go to the line 38 times tonight, I would again guess that that's a team that's following the game plan, being physical inside. Real quick, and at the bottom of the hour, Colton Pouncey is going to join us from The Athletic. You can follow him on Twitter at Colton Pouncey. Really good follow. All right. He's got great stuff. Yesterday, Adam Schefter, or maybe it was 2 days ago, Adam Schefter, who is a well-respected NFL voice, Not so much NBA because he thought Charlotte would give Detroit all kinds of problems, and they're not even playing Detroit. But he believes there's going to be a run, like we said earlier in the show, on offensive linemen in the first round. He said it's really going to start at Miami at 11, all the way down to New England at 31. During that scrunch time of about 20 picks, he said you could literally see 9 to 10 offensive linemen go. And if that's the case, that the Lions have to be ready to move and ready to make the pick they feel most comfortable with. His colleague, Jordan Reed, had a mock draft for the Lions, and at 17 he has them taking Monroe Freeling. Now, I know we in the media get caught up in having certain players fit certain teams because of need. But I see that kid's name associated with the Lions a lot. And as we mentioned yesterday, perhaps the Caden Proctor thing is a little bit too much because the Lions are so close to the vest. If they're so close to the vest, why are we seeing Monroe Freeling so frequently? He only visited with the Lions once. Brad Holmes, while with the Rams, there was a Pete Schrager podcast where he had Brad Holmes on, and Brad Holmes is actually talking about, while with the Rams, that they oftentimes would, bluff their way through it. And maybe that could be the case in this situation too. The case could be, maybe the Lions haven't visited with Monroe Freeling for a reason. They love him, but they don't want anyone else to think that they love him. But here's who they have. They have Monroe Freeling. This is, again, Jordan Reed of ESPN, a 7-round NFL mock draft for the Lions. Monroe Freeling at 17, Derek Moore at 50. I bet you, I don't care if you're a Spartan fan, a Michigan fan, a football fan in general, if you got those two guys in your first 2 rounds, you would be happy. And it's not just because they're addressing needs, tackle and edge, but it's because of the players you have filling those needs. The interesting one is after that, he has them taking Jonah Coleman, the Washington running back, which to me doesn't make a lot of sense, even though they just signed Isaiah Pacheco. It doesn't make much sense. Based on need, okay, if that's who they have on their board. Eventually, down the 7th round, he has them taking Sawyer Robertson. Remember yesterday we were having the conversation about certain players and quarterbacks, how they're not very good, how this is a bad draft for quarterbacks? I wouldn't do that in the 5th round because we had a text suggesting you got to get quarterback. And it did make me think. That's what I appreciate about the text and the people who watch and listen to our show. It did make me think a little bit. Sawyer Robertson, who started his playing career at Mississippi State and then went to Waco. Okay. Played his best as a senior. He ranked number 2 in FBS last year in passing yards per game. He's at 307 yards per game. Really productive. All right. 7 FBS quarterbacks had 30+ passing touchdowns in 2025, but only Sawyer Robertson hit that mark while making 12 or fewer starts. That tells you something about it. He's got good size. He's got a good athleticism. He's got a good arm. All those things are a massive plus. The problem is that he doesn't have great instincts according or great consistency according to many scouts. And that's going to really cause an issue with him on being a possible starter instead of a career backup. That's what you're usually getting later in the drafts. We'll talk about that and more with Colton Pouncey. He of The Athletic joins us on the other side. Looking forward to this conversation on X's and Bros, brought to you by Avello Airlines after this.
In the Den with Dan Dickerson.
DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code HUGE for a special offer when you sign up. That's code HUGE, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Framber Valdez's last two starts are a great example of what an ace pitcher adds to a rotation. Against the Royals, Valdez only struck out one, but he went 7 innings and allowed just 1 run on 3 hits and 2 walks with no hard contact. He didn't have command of his key pitch, his curveball, and he couldn't get swing and miss, so he did what all the good ones do, figure out how to go deep on a day when everything feels just a little bit off, and then make an adjustment. Over the weekend, in miserable conditions in Boston, Valdez did just that. He reminded us why he has the most wins in baseball the last 5 years. He found the feel on his curveball, pounded Red Sox hitters in with a swing-back fastball, and had them flailing at his changeup. Valdez threw 6 shutout innings, and given the conditions, it was easily his best start as a Tiger.
Saturday night, May 23rd.
Carry on my wayward son.
Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort welcomes multi-platinum legends, Kansas. Tickets start at $60 and are on sale now at the box office or etix.com.
Just in the wind.
Don't miss the best of classic rock. Kansas returns to Soaring Eagle Saturday, May 23rd. SoaringEagleCasino.com.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI, thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
I don't know if there's a busier guy right now than Colton Pouncey. I mean, he is swamped because everywhere he goes, guaranteed. Hey, man, who are the Lions going to take at 17? Oh, my God, please, can we just get the draft over with? But he has kept us abreast, and he has kept us informed on a lot of things that could happen. He of The Athletic joins us on X's and BrO's. Follow him at Colton Pouncey. Colton, appreciate the time, man, because I know how busy you truly are. I don't want to be that guy to ask, but I would ask this. The Lions are usually very close to the vest in who they're going to take. How do we decipher so many mocks with the name Caden Proctor and balance that with the Lions being tight-lipped usually about who they're going to choose?
Yeah, I'll be completely honest. It's kind of broken my brain just how secretive they've been with this process. If you look at their 30 visits, like normally in past years, there's a lengthy list of guys that come to Detroit for a visit. They get them in the building. They kind of learn about them a little bit more. That list, at least the reported ones that are out there, is much smaller than it normally is, which to me speaks to maybe the Lions trying to keep things in-house a little bit more. And, they canceled their local pro day. Brad didn't go to owners meetings because he was kind of focused on the draft and didn't want to catch up when he gets back. So I'm looking at some of those things. I'm just like, okay, clearly they're trying to put this focus on the draft, maybe keep things in house. And yet though, one name that you hear connected to them so often is Caden Proctor. And everyone, all these analysts are saying, oh, the Lions love Proctor. He's not making it past 17. They might go up to get him. He's their guy. And it just feels a little smokescreen to me. Maybe they really do love Caden Proctor, and maybe they just think he'll be there at 17 or they'll be within striking distance, so he'll get him. But if that's the case, why would you put out there that you love him so much? So I don't really know how to read it. I could totally see them loving him, right? He is a big dude. He's athletic for size. Guys that are 370 pounds should not move like him. He played some receiver. You think the Lions are going to like that stuff. But I don't know. It's just a little bit smokescreen to me. My antennas are going up a little bit. So I guess we'll find out on Thursday at least.
Yeah, he also played at Alabama and played in the SEC, obviously, and those are things that Brad Holmes at least gravitates to if you look at history as the general manager of the Lions. Either way, there seems to be a lot of offensive linemen who are graded in the first round. Are you surprised at the run of, or what could be a run at offensive linemen and where the Lions would have to be in order to get one of their favorites?
I'm not surprised. This is a pretty good offensive line, specifically offensive tackle class. I think there are as many as maybe 7 guys, depending on how you shape some of these guys. 7 tackles that could go in the first round. And the Lions at 17 are a pretty good spot to land one. Now the question is, which one will they like? Because as we know, Brad Holmes doesn't draft positions, he drafts players. So there could be a tackle available at 17 or within striking distance of a trade up. But if Brad doesn't think he's a good football player, can play tackle, he's not going to take him. So that's the big question. If there's a guy there that they think that he can play the position long-term and be that anchor for them on the outside, opposite of Penei Sewell, I could totally see that being the pick because, sometimes the need matches up the prospect on the board. We saw it a couple years ago, 2024. Everyone wants to get a cornerback. Tyrion Arnold was sticking out like a sore thumb at pick 24. The Lions are at 29. They come up to get him. So if it's a situation like that, then I think they'll go tackle, but I don't think they'll be forced to get one. I think there's some good players at other positions that they would like maybe just as much, if not more.
Read your article the other day, and I just got so enamored with it. And I'm a big Dane Brugler is one of my favorite guys, so I read the Beast religiously. It's really important. But the number of options, day one options you had, not that Caleb Downs would be available. You just brought up names, good names. Okay, the belief by some, and I've heard this, is that the Lions have first round grades on a finite number of players. I've heard the number 13. I could be off. So some people immediately speculate, Peter Schrager did this, Adam Schefter has referred to this as a possible trade up. If I gave you the option that the Lions would trade up, trade down, or stand pat, what would you stay with?
Are we talking just first round or like at various points in the draft, I guess? Because
great question.
I think
just the first round. Just the first round.
First round, I would say trade up. And I know everyone wants them to trade down. I actually think that this is a draft that I think I want to say more teams are going to be trying to trade down than trade up. So I think if that's the case, and all these teams are trying to trade down, the Lions probably aren't in a good position at 17 where it makes sense for a team to come up and maybe you get that extra third-round pick that everyone wants. Every mock draft that is sent to me features a trade down where someone picks up a third. I'm like, it sounds good in theory, but I just don't know if this is a draft where that's going to happen. Like, there's no quarterback that should be lingering there. Like, there's no really, star prospect that's going to be sitting there at 17, I don't think, for a team to come up and try to get him. So I actually think in a market like this where maybe it benefits going up and getting a guy, like maybe the cost to go up 4 spots is less than what it would normally be in a draft with, a ton of depth across the first round. So maybe that benefits the Lions in a way and say, hey, instead of a third-round pick or, future third-round pick, it's going to cost you a little bit less. Maybe you can get it done with like a 4th and a 5th this year to move up. And if that's the case, and Brad's comfortable with that cost of acquisition, I could totally see him going up because the way that he drafts, again, it's so specific. It has to be a player that he covets, not just a position. And so you mentioned it, maybe 13, 14 first-round grades on players. If one of those guys is lingering there and he's like, I'm within striking distance, I think he's going to get the itch and maybe go up and get him. So I could totally see that. I would probably say up rather than down at this point.
That's interesting. When people talk about the need at tackle, and everybody believes that's obvious, although he has spoken glowingly about Larry Borum. Do you think the Lions need an offensive lineman, or do they need a tackle specifically? How do you view that?
I view it as offensive line.
Okay.
He is really talking up Larry Borum and specifically his tape at right tackle. And the thing with Borum is he's played left tackle, he's played guard, he's played right. And Brad said he thought he played his best football at right tackle last year with the Dolphins. So if you're evaluating him as just a right tackle, he thinks that that's a step up from where Borum has been in previous years when he's played left tackle and has gotten kind of worked on that side. So if you take him at face value, he's saying that he likes guys at right tackle. That would probably warrant a move for Penei Sewell to left tackle. And I'm still looking at that offensive line. I'm like, you could use more here. So if that's the case, a guy like Venga Ioane from Penn State, who I think is going to be like a Pro Bowl caliber guard from day one, if he's there at 17, why not just take him? And that way, say what you want about Borum. 4 of your other 5 spots on your offensive line, you have dudes there with Cade Mays and ascending young center, Ioane, Tate Ratledge is going to take a leap this year, and then you got a stud like Penei Sewell. You can hide Borum at right tackle and then even bring some help with a tight end and help, chip in the run game, things like that. You can hide that right tackle spot. At least it's not Jared Goff's blind spot. So I could see them going with that too. I would not hate that. I'd actually prefer that versus a tackle that might not even play in 2026. Not going to help you win games immediately. So
I could hug you. I could hug you right now. I could hug you right now because Ioane is one of my. No, I'm serious. He's one of my favorite players in this draft. A little like when David DeCastro came out of Stanford. I loved him. And I think he's a plug-and-play guy. Boom, there he is. You don't have to worry about that position. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I do like Miles Frazier. I like Miles Frazier. He got hurt. He was a really steady player in college. He played a lot in college. So if you told me you drafted, fill in the blank. Maybe it's Caden Proctor. I'm not a huge fan. I like Monroe Freeling better. If you grabbed a tackle and you had Miles Frazier, as long as he earns it, at left guard, I wouldn't feel bad about that. But I love Ioane. I think he's a phenomenal player. I really do. And I think he's just undervalued because the position he plays. So I like that. If based on what your research has brought you, how would you rank tackles in this draft? And then how would you rank edge rushers? Because everybody feels like at 50, the second round, that's who they got to get is an edge rusher.
Yeah. The tackle class is kind of hard because you have some question marks, right? Like Francis Malanoa from Miami, he might be the consensus tackle, but he's got like some back issues that are popping up like right before the draft, which is kind of scary for an offensive lineman. I'd probably put him number 1 on my list, though. I just think he's pretty technically sound and does a little bit of everything well. Some people think he's a guard long term, but I think he can play right tackle. Another guy, Spencer Fano, I think there's a chance that he could maybe slide to 17. We did our beat writer mock draft at The Athletic, and I was shocked that he was available at 17. So I saw
that. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And again, he's a guy, he's got the shorter arms. So people are like, I think a lot of people are scared off by Will Campbell's like postseason run with the Patriots. And they're like, well, you can't draft a guard to play tackle. But I think, if we're talking about right tackle and you think that he's a better player than Larry Borom, I would almost take him because he's got some guard flexibility too. So you could either say, okay, he's either going to start right tackle over Borom or left guard over Mahogany and Frazier. And then that flexibility can give you the option to kick him out if there's an injury. I think he could be close to a Bengal level guard if that's the case. So I would not be afraid to take him at 17 just because of his arm length. And I don't think the Lions would be either. After that, I'd probably have Monroe Freeling third. I think I think Caden Proctor's a guard, if I'm being honest. So I would probably have even a Blake Miller, Max Ahanachor, Caden Proctor, probably in that similar tier of tackle bucket for me.
Yeah.
And then Caleb Lomu probably after that. I'm probably missing somebody, but that's kind of the group I'm looking at right now.
No, I think that's complete. The edge rushing position doesn't seem to be quite as deep. Maybe I'm wrong, at least in the first round. Let me take that back. First round, no. Who do you see as a possibility at 50 for them?
At 50, I think my favorite fit for them would probably be Illinois' Gabe Yakis, I think is how you say his name.
Yep. I love him.
So I just think that he fits their profile to a T. Me too. I was talking to a coach who fits at Illinois, and he told me he is one of the best leaders in that room, even though he's not like the most vocal guy, but he leads by example, comes from a great family. Like his family means everything to him. He works hard for them, gets after it, all the typical cliches. He gets in early, leaves late. I think his positional versatility, you could put him inside and have him rush. You can rush him on the outside. He's strong. He's got a good motor. So I think if you're looking for a player that the Lions would probably take at 50 in terms of an edge rusher, I think he makes a lot of sense. Now, a lot of people mock, Malachi Lawrence, the UCF edge, and I love him as a player. I think that he is a great combination of length, size, and speed. I actually think he might go first round at this point. I'm hearing some buzz that he might sneak into at least the late first round. So I don't think he'll be there at 50. But another guy, Derek Moore from Michigan, I think would be an option for them too. He kind of fits the profile of what they like. As a guy that can set an edge, he's unselfish in the run game, has a strong bull rush. He needs to keep developing his arsenal. But I think that could come in due time, and he's probably played there a lot.
Because of the number of 12 and 13 personnel that now every NFL team now institutes, do you envision the need for a tight end? And at some point in this draft, you could see if they did get the guy that they wanted as a tight end.
Campbell says, just because Drew Petzing ran a lot of 13 personnel with the Cardinals doesn't mean the line's going to do it here. You have to have the personnel, I guess. But this is a very deep tight end class. There are starters that are there to be had on day 3 even, or at least guys that can help you and be a rotational piece, a number 2. So I think that there are some options. The guy I really like is Dallin Bentley from Utah. I think he's a natural hands catcher, pretty explosive with the ball in his hands. He'd be a really good fit with Shepard. Nate Borkature, more of a blocking tight end, comes from Texas A&M, so the head coach might like him, plays the same position as him. But yeah, there's some guys on day 3 I think that could fit what the Lions are looking for, and there's a little bit of everything depending on what you are looking for. There's the big guys that can go up and get it. There's the blocking tight ends. There's sort of the speed guys that can work over the middle. So there's a lot of that position. So if they want to add one, I think it would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, Sam Roche from Stanford is a really good player too.
Yes.
Last thing for you, and this is kind of strange, but I don't think Teddy Bridgewater invokes a ton of confidence in people as a backup. I'm not saying you use a high pick, but could you envision the Lions drafting a possible quarterback at some point in this draft? Because I hate the quarterbacks in this draft, with all due respect. I don't think there's a lot of really good ones, but could you envision something like that possibly?
It's possible if there's one that's kind of sticking out to them. If Drew Aller is there in the 6th round, the Lions have a lot of, fifth. I think they have 2 5th-rounders, 2 6th-rounders.
Correct.
So if they're just throwing darts at that point, then maybe you take a flyer on a guy like Drew Aller if he's there. I actually think he could go higher just because NFL teams are enamored with big arms all the time, even if the accuracy isn't always there. But I don't know, man. I think they're pretty comfortable with Teddy, and they have so many needs. And they might not view it that way, but to me, I'm like, you can get a speedy linebacker / edge in the 6th round that can be a rotational guy, like a James Houston type. I would try to fill my roster with players like that I can take a swing on and say, I don't know if you're going to be a good player, but I'm going to give you this chance, rather than a quarterback that's going to need years to develop when you already have a starter like Jared Goff. So I wouldn't rule it out. You never know. They obviously went for that with Hendon Hooker a couple years ago. Didn't work out. So, we'll see. But I think it's an option at least.
Do you think the Pistons win tonight and even the series?
I hope so. I'm going to be there. They should. I think they got it. Yeah, they'll bounce back.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about them.
It's your last night of personal time, for crying out loud. You are swamped, and everybody's tugging at you, and you gave us a few moments today. I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. You're a smart man. Have a great day. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll be reading your coverage all weekend long throughout the draft. Thanks, Colton.
Absolutely. Appreciate that. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Colton Pouncey from The Athletic joining us. He's such a good guest. I mean, he's just really good, man. He knows his proverbial blank. He knows his stuff. He gives you options. He's not going to be pigeonholed into one guy. And I think we got a lot of really good stuff out of him. So I hope you enjoyed that. We'll put that out on a podcast as well. What a show this morning, man. Renee Rivera giving us a little perspective from a baseball standpoint. Talked a lot of Pistons and the needs with J.B. Bickerstaff's sound from practice yesterday that Andy McDonald was there and was able to gather. And then this insightful information from Colton Pouncey. Let's get to the final results of the poll question from yesterday, shall we? It's the Mitch Lions poll question of the day. Which possible tackle would best fit the Lions? Spencer Fano from Utah, Monroe Freeling from Georgia, Caden Proctor from Alabama, or Blake Miller from Clemson? Andy, what did the masses say?
Well, Spencer Fano, the first option, was the top one. It was at 47%. Monroe Freeling at 40%. I feel like those two would be pretty close together. Caden Proctor got 0% of the vote. And then Blake Miller took 13% of the vote.
13%.
Yep.
I wonder what I think the weight is a concern for people with Caden Proctor. And it's a legitimate concern too, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited because tomorrow Mitch Lyons is going to join us. He can relate. He was drafted, an NFL player, NFL tight end. He's going to join us tomorrow. And on Friday, Jim Miller, who also was drafted and also played at Michigan State, and a guy who has done NFL radio for a long, long time, and will be in Pittsburgh. He will join us Friday morning for his thoughts on day one of the NFL draft. So make sure you set your clock to that. All right. Thanks again to Renee Rivera and Colton Pouncey, Andy McDonald, and to you, of course, for giving us some of your time on a Wednesday morning. We're back with you tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock here on X's and Bros. Don't forget the huge show from Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort, the watch party with the Pistons and Magic Game 2 tonight. He joins us 3 till 7 right here on the Michigan Sports Network.
Huge here for Josh Garvey and his team at Dorn Mayhew. Now, Josh oversees the West Michigan operations. Dorn Mayhew's worldwide headquarters are in Troy, Michigan, on the east side of the state. They are one of the top accounting, CPA, and business firms in the world. They continue to grow. They can help your business with any accounting, CPA,